Our Big Gig, a public event on College Green near Clifton, one of the richest and most expensive places to live and trade in Bristol. I'm thinking about poverty. I'm listening to the words of this poet and reflecting on groups at particular risk of underachieving. The research tells us that poverty has a much bigger impact on educational attainment than ethnicity.
The single largest determinant of underachievement is poverty, measured in this case by eligibility for free school meals. So for any group, regardless of your ethnicity, if you're eligible for free school meals, you are much more likely to underachieve. But of course, it's not poverty on its own. Bristol is such a segregated city, both in class terms, but in ethnic terms as well, really impacts on the aspirations of people who are trapped in poverty. There are some wards in the city which are particularly disadvantaged. Lawrence Hill, for example, Easton. What you find is that many of our most disadvantaged black and minority ethnic learners are located in those particular wards. And sometimes it's quite difficult to break out of the cycle of poverty and low aspiration that you sometimes find in very disadvantaged areas.
So poverty is one reason why some children underachieve and not ethnicity. But that idea is not accepted by many in education, not least Ruth Pickerskill, Deputy Head at St Brendan's Sixth Form College.
If we focus all the time on poverty, then we can say, well, there's not a lot we can do about it because it's people come from poor backgrounds. But actually, I think there are so many young people who come from backgrounds where they are in poverty or come from overseas, haven't been here very long, who make huge amounts of progress, much greater progress than young people who are in this country, who've started in our education system. And so we need to look at the other factors. And I think, for me, the key factors are how the schools respond to the young people within them and the relationships that they develop, the cultural competence they have in understanding those young people, the aspirations they have for those young people.
We could just give up the ghost, and say that it's impossible, that, poverty is, schools can't do anything about poverty, they can't do anything about institutionalised racism, they can't do anything about the range of factors that make it difficult for some of our communities. But actually they can. And I think that's one of the most positive things to come out of the research, that schools can and are doing things that make a difference.
I've taken on students who've only just come over at age 15 and have actually managed to achieve and actually striving still to carry on and get on to university, because they see that they can achieve here and they're working hard to do so.
It's very much about the mindset that education is liberation, and for those families where you've been brought up to believe that education is your way out of poverty, you're actually going to put everything into that. And if your family have started off by saying university is what we expect for you to get you out of poverty, and if their parents have got those aspirations for them, they'll internalise them, and that will keep them going, and that will get them where they need to be, really. And I'm amazed by that at my college. I mean, some of the students who've really come from very disadvantaged backgrounds, who've not been in this country very long, have learnt English from no English whatsoever to having a good level of English in 2 or 3 years. They're the ones who have got incredibly high aspirations. They want to be doctors, they want to be vets, they want to do amazing things.
Socioeconomic background does make a huge difference, but it's not the only reason. It's when you put socioeconomic background together with other factors that you really begin to see some of the difficulties that are faced by, for example, Black Caribbean learners. So even accounting for socioeconomic background, Black Caribbean learners do worse than would be anticipated just on the basis of poverty alone. There's something else going on, in other words. Actually, the group that, in terms of overall numbers, that are underachieving in the city are our white working class learners.
Thank you.
Children, of more affluent parents don't actually achieve by accident. They achieve because there's a careful strategy and a plan to get their children through the system and, plan where they want to go for their future. And in that time, people might change their mind about what they want to do, but as long as you have the basic foundation, they can move wherever they want to go. So if they want to go to university or whatever they want to do, they might change their mind exactly what they want to do, but the basics are in place. They have the right GCSEs, they will have the right A-levels to be able to achieve those things. And that strategy has to be there from the beginning. You've got to actually plan with your children what's the best option for them.
I think the message really is that we need to redouble our efforts to close the attainment gap. But it's not just in the interests of our black and minority ethnic learners or global majority learners that we do that. It's in all of our interests, because the kinds of strategies that we put in place to support them also impact on our majority, our white working class and our white British learners as well. That's really important, I think, to understand.